Hi, welcome to another episode of the Cloud Show with Omid, where industry players can have their say. Cloud security, cybersecurity, infosec, call it what you want. But at the end of the day, it's all about keeping our company data safe. As the virus keeps killing us and devastating our economies, we all lead a more digital life these days than an actual one. And this is precisely why cybersecurity is an even more pressing issue today than it ever was. Whether you like it or not, you and your employees are up in the cloud a few times a day. Checking email, video conferencing, even watching Netflix. Yeah, like I said, we are in the cloud a lot. Our love-hate relationship with cloud security continued throughout the years. Initially, all the server-hugging IT managers panicked and thought it didn't really make sense to have your servers outside of your building. And then folks began to love the cloud as service providers excelled at showing off their highly maintained data centers. And then reports of massive breaches surfaced, and everybody hated the cloud again. And now, all of a sudden, cloud is a godsend again. To explore what's going on, I reached out to some of the top minds in the industry. First, I asked Standard Chartered's Dr. Ozkaya to weigh in on managing enterprise security in a COVID-hit world.
It's all about the changing mindset. So it was, people used to go to the office. In the office, you have a desktop or laptop, you are connected to a corporate location, all the security, you have physical security guards. All we had to tell employees, hey, you know what, have clear desk policy, lock your confidential stuff, ensure you lock your drawers, ensure you lock your PC. From that, we went to an environment that you can be at the moment at Starbucks, or you could be at home, or you could be using your neighbor's Wi-Fi, or you might be connecting with your own device to your corporations. Of course, first we had to find how we can connect these people to work, because during lockdown, nobody could go out. So VPN, easy solution, but did he have enough license? Or did he have a corporate device, like laptop? If not, how are you gonna, even if you install the VPN in your home PC, it's not gonna work because you don't have the configuration settings. Let's say you fix that, then you had bandwidth issues. And besides that, phishing, you could just ask someone, hey, did you see this email? Or, all this news which is happening. So people are more likely to click when they see, the immunization has been found, flash news. People will be social engineered. They will be forced to click into it.
Yes, socially engineered employees who are even more vulnerable today. I'm sure you'd agree that it's no easy feat keeping the enterprise cyber environment safe at a time like this. I asked Marc French what his fellow CISOs have been dealing with.
There's so much going on for folks now. They're taking care of their parents, they're taking care of their siblings, they're worried about their jobs. So the focus of what they need to be aware of has diminished because they're just information overloads. The cognitive load, as I like to call it, people can only handle so much. So what ends up happening is a lot of the adversaries recognize that, and they're crafty. This is what they do. And you see more and more instances of like phishing attacks that are targeted towards them, and people have their guard down because they're just not paying as much attention as they were before. So I've seen phishing instances go up. And I would say the other thing that you see is, and it's funny, if you think about the security triad of CIA, it's the A right now that's probably one of the most important things on availability. Because before, everything's in a data center, I've got a desktop, all of a sudden you got a home network, you've got a home machine, and that A, which a lot of security professionals haven't focused in on, has now come to the forefront because all of a sudden, well, I lost my laptop. My kid spilled juice on it. I need to get a laptop to him. I can't work. Now I'm using my home machine because I can't provision and get you to access. So all of those things, so you got this perfect storm of focus plus the lack of security teams focused on the availability thing that have caused probably the adversaries to get a little bit of uplift with respect to COVID.
To get a bigger picture, I talked to Palo Alto Network's Haide Pasha on some of the examples of attacks since the beginning of the pandemic.
Shortly after the lockdown began, I immediately started to see SMSs coming from some attack groups, essentially claiming that I have a fine, for example, that I need to pay the government because I may have stepped outside. And so I have to click on this link and pay the fine and whatnot. Obviously, I didn't click on it, but a lot of people fell victim to that. Right? And that was a very common technique that started. Lots of, I would call them fake web pages, essentially, as well, that have been created. In the first 2 weeks of the pandemic breaking out, which was around the February timeframe for us, really at a global scale, Palo Alto Networks registered about 200,000 domains registered specifically to COVID-19, and those were malicious domains, right? And people were being lured to those areas and those domains where they would click on a link and they would inadvertently download some sort of malware on their device.
And you're not going to believe this.
The one that's my favorite, I won't call it my favorite, but the one that really catches my eye is the Corona antivirus. So this was a piece of software that started making its rounds, again, very early on in the February, early March timeframe, where people didn't really know what the coronavirus was. So they thought if they download the software called Corona Antivirus, that they would not be prone to the coronavirus. And again, it was purely just ransomware, masquerading as some sort of an antivirus system. And a lot of people fell victim to that as well. So here's a few examples other than just simple spear phishing that a lot of people fell victim to.
So adversaries are hard at work and enterprises are vulnerable. How vulnerable, you might ask? Take this report from Malwarebytes, for example. The biggest remote work cybersecurity concern was found to be devices that may be more exposed at home, where employees' family members may have access and may inadvertently compromise them. Also, inadequate network protections, which could allow hackers to even hijack your Zoom call. How many of you have been Zoom bombed lately? Sophos' The State of Cloud Security Report 2020 showed that number one cloud security concern among organizations is data leakage or loss. And when asked about how hackers got into their environments, an overwhelming 66% of those systems were breached through a security misconfiguration, followed by 33% caused by compromised cloud account credentials. Looking at this report from Security Insiders and ISC Squared, or the Fugue State of Cloud Security, findings are almost exactly the same. Biggest cloud security threats are again misconfiguration and unauthorized access. Now the question is this an employee distraction issue? Is this a training issue? Does it have to do with too many products and APIs? Well, it's probably a combination of all. I asked Dr. Ozkaya what it means to have too many products in your environment.
Look, vendors usually have ready packages. It's like, look, this is a water bottle for 600 milliliters, but you are not extremely thirsty. You only need 200 mils. I don't care. That's what you have. Ready package. You either buy it all or sorry, no water. Look, with security products, there are so many, for example. Being in a region where people say something, I have like 50 security products. Having 50 products means you have 50 different applications to manage. You have 50 different configurations to manage. You have 50 different patches to manage, right? Because it's made by humans, it's going to be patched, it's going to be updated. And if not, ransomware. People are going to find it, they're going to attack you. So please don't just blindly sign. Look at what has been sold and look how it will work with you. See if it's going to fit into your organization. Honestly, I'm happy with my vendors, with our vendors, but I'm not just always getting the full package. I try to get what I want. And why do I know that? I work for a vendor.
So this made me wonder. In an ideal cybersecurity world, 50 vendors should be able to work perfectly with each other, and we should be more secure as a result. But our world is far from perfect. And I needed Marc French to remind me of that when I asked him, is the enterprise cybersecurity ecosystem ready to take care of organizations' immediate needs?
No. How's that for a straight up answer? So there's movement, let's be honest. But the reality of it is that they're just not interoperable. So what ends up happening is most teams have to try to stitch together something. They're getting better at this, generally speaking. I'll be honest with you, there's too many vendors. There's no way that folks can consume all of the potential vendors and all the potential spaces that are out there. And I'll just pick on endpoint protection as an example. I mean, how many endpoint protection vendors are there? 20, 30? The reality of it is the distinction between them is so minute that it's hard for you to make a informed judgment on that. And they all don't talk to each other. They don't all necessarily interoperate well. Some of them work well with your SIEM, some of them don't. But right now, I would say as an ecosystem, we're probably failing the enterprise security practice. That said, I would say to any CISO out there that's looking at it is leverage your vendors. Your vendors should be doing more for you. One space that I kind of harp on is threat intelligence. So everybody CISOs want to build a threat intelligence function. I'm like, don't start building your own threat intelligence. Let your vendors do it. If your vendors can't do that, pick a different vendor, because they have the resources to run that intelligence through their endpoint protection or their firewall or their IDS or whatever. Let them do that. Don't do that yourself.
On the threat intelligence, Haide Pasha also weighed in.
What we as a cybersecurity industry, I think, have now started to do a lot better is sharing intelligence. Right? So threat intel, we began as an organization, I think about 5 to 6 years ago now. We founded something called the Cyber Threat Alliance, so the CTA. We said, you know what, the bad guys are sharing intelligence all the time. Why shouldn't the good guys, right? Let's sit down and let's share, let's build a platform. Let's have a third party that's created as a result of our investment or joint investment. And then let's share our threat intelligence on that platform so that it's an open community and we all benefit from it as an organization. That was about 4 people or 4 organizations about 5-6 years ago. Today, that number, I think, is upwards of 26. So we've expanded on CTA. As a founding member of the CTA, we do a lot of work in terms of making sure we look at the type of intelligence that's being shared. And you cannot be a member if you're not sharing intelligence, and that includes us as well. So we hold each other responsible. So that's a model that's working really well. So cyber threat intelligence, I think we're doing a very good job.
I finally asked Dr. Ozkaya to send a message to both the vendor community and his fellow CISOs.
To some vendors, please also listen to us. What Omid and his friends are trying to do is get our voice to you as well. I'm not saying lower your price, lower security, but try to understand what I need where possible. Look, if I'm a small business owner, I'm not saying come and sit down with me. For that, I should get your package. But if I were to send a Charlotte or you name it, to Emirates or you name it, to all these big organizations, then it's like going to a corner shop. You can buy the same water, but it's a bit more expensive. You can just drive a little bit. Well, you go to Lidl, same thing, it's much cheaper there. You can buy it. Why? Because they have better buying power. Or they use a similar, different brand, they rebrand it, and they sell it as well. And maybe an OEM can help you with the same thing. Ensure you have MFA. Ensure you patch your systems. Ensure you don't just click next. Ensure you use the full package. Knowledge is the power. Please try to learn from each other. My message is partner with your friends. Try to have friends. Like, be good with your next door neighbor. Maybe you don't know him or her. No problem. But I assure you, if there is a fire next door and you don't help your neighbor, that fire is soon going to jump to your apartment or to your building.
Our social media coverage this time has an amazing find. Reuters' Jack Stubbs gave his followers a rare look into how an actual ransomware attack went down. A US travel management firm was hit with a ransomware, and they ended up paying $4.5 million worth of Bitcoin to the attackers. But wait, it gets a lot more interesting. The attackers initially asked for $10 million, and after a bit of haggling, agreed to bring it down to 4.5. But what's really unsettling is the language with which the negotiations were carried out. The tone is professional and, as Jack put it in his post, collegial, as if this was a usual business transaction. Things like, It's a pleasure to work with professionals, or I don't mean to belittle you and your team's work here. After the ransom was paid, the attackers even provided some bonus security advice. Yeah, not exactly how we imagine a ransomware attack. Here's what's happening. Configurations are getting more complicated and employees' focus is diminishing. This to me sounds like a recipe for disaster. Now we keep saying people are the weakest link, and by that we usually mean Bob, who works in accounting, that clicks on anything he receives in his email, or Sarah from marketing, whose password is Sarah123 with a capital S. But can we really blame our staff or our security teams under current conditions? See, the way I see it, we cannot rely only on product features and vendors to protect us, nor the ecosystem as a whole is ready to defeat the growing cyber threats. But what we can do is we can take a better care of our staff. Maybe we should stop calling our employees the weakest link and start investing in training, automation, and more importantly, our employees' well-being. It is one of those times that the answer is not in taking care of technology alone, but also taking care of our people. Please subscribe, share, comment, and more importantly, disagree with me. If you want to engage in our work, please join our LinkedIn group, Meta Cloud Alliance, or simply go to our website, www.metacloud.org, and get involved in the work we are doing for the community. Until next time, stay kind.